Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh. I've got my co-host, Lore Master Denim.
Howdy, howdy.
And the only man to attempt to charge a battle mech unaugmented because, quote, my piloting skill is better, so it's an easy roll, unquote, with me today, Steve.
I almost had him.
Almost. And we are the Mechbay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive tabletop BattleTech. And today's episode is sponsored by Mechwarrior Wilson McBurns, the only certified mech foot actuator inspector.
I'm disappointed that he's here.
And Commander Jolly Tall Guy, the only man the Discord auto mod tried to literally kill twice.
I don't know what you did or why it broke, but poor Jolly Tall Guy just could not get his Discord situated. But we're glad to have him.
Today, gentlemen, we're talking about war and how war sometimes changes. But before we get into that, I think we need to get into some BattleTech news, some hobby progress, some games played, possibly some tales from the Tyrant Hall, and definitely some upcoming events. So let's just roll out with some hobby news. Guess what, guys? It's Gen Con season. And you know what that means? It means we have Gen Con exclusives.
I've seen some cool stuff coming out. It's not bad. They've got a couple new dice. I think the Gothic boxes are there.
The Gothic boxes are there.
The Aces are not there. They explicitly had to say the Aces boxes are not there, but they do have some swag.
I think they're looking for November for Aces, last I heard.
Black Friday. At least that's the goal.
Yeah. I'm a little bit disappointed, gentlemen. I have 2 fish running around at Gen Con. Actually, maybe 3 fish at Gen Con, and no one was able to snag me a Gothic blind box. I was denied my blind box fix. I'm unhappy.
Instead, you're here, not at Gen Con, not playing with the Gen Con exclusive BattleTech product, laser crystal, bullet, and missile-shaped dice.
I have suspicions that some of those won't roll.
I love dice. I love dice a lot. These are cute, and I wouldn't mind them sitting on my desk. I would never use them at the table personally.
Are these dice, as they are an official CGL product, are they legal at Southern Assault?
They roll and they're legible, so why not? I'm just not going to use them myself. But
can you imagine someone filling a box of death with bullet dice?
Yeah, I don't like that.
No.
But on the table, I mean, if you bring them and Catalyst made them, I'll let you use them. I don't like how they feel when I roll them. That's all.
Yeah, you say they're fine, but the folks at home need to know that they're not fine. Nothing about this is fine. They're not cubes. I don't like them. They're neat. So it's funny. My wife got me a set of bullet dice, but it's like a Dungeons and Dragons set. So it's got like the D20, the D4, all that type of stuff. They're neat. They're heavy. They make loud clicky clacks when you roll them on the table, but I don't care for them much. So these are neat. They're a novelty, but I can't see myself using these to play BattleTech.
Yeah, they're the full novelty for me. Like, unfortunately, it goes the like faction metal puck dice, and then the hard edge collector's edition fancy box from the Kickstarter, and then these at the bottom. Like they're all still cool, but it's like when I'm grabbing my bucket of dice and one feels different than the others, that gives me the ick, and I can't have that. So I either need 100 of the exact same dice, like, you know, geometrically, or only these.
I'm sure someone out there will like them and someone out there will use them, and that'll be just fine. Whatever floats your boat, folks.
Hey, if it gets you to play more BattleTech, bring them on.
Speaking of playing more BattleTech, Denim, guess what's out there now?
What?
The Southern Assault Classic packet is now live.
They're doing Classic Southern Assault? That's awesome.
We discussed this last time. Someone suckered us into running this dang thing.
So are we reading the whole packet here right now?
No, that's going to take way too much time. I don't think so.
Yes, and you should read it in its entirety.
Read the whole packet. Please read the packet. It's good, actually. And we'll talk about this in games played, but I did I did a practice list build for the tournament just to see how it would go. And I had my buddy do it as well, just build a list compliant with the tournament packet. And was an interesting game. And I can talk about that a little later. But it's all out there. Read it. And if you've got any questions regarding the packet, the tournament, or any, if we made a mistake or we had any sort of error ambiguities in the packet, please write to us at southernassaultclassic@gmail.com. That is the official Southern Assault Classic email, so we can keep all the questions located in one place. And as always, if you've got questions for us about the podcast, the Mechbay podcast@gmail.com is a great email to use, but not for this purpose.
I was told this is the only packet I've ever seen where it did not have an obvious typo in it. And that made me so happy.
I don't know if that's accurate that it didn't have a typo, because so what ended up happening is the initial due date for the list submissions were off by 1 day. We had it in 2 locations. I changed one, but not the other. So
that counts.
Yeah, it was one typo, but we fixed it.
The only other typo I know of is the optional rule for Beagle Active Probe was a page off. So thank you, Obsidian Anubis, for that message.
That guy knows his stuff. Obsidian Anubis, he's solid.
But yeah, well, I'd say that's it for news. You want to move on some hobby progress?
Sure can. Josh, you get anything done?
No, I wanted to paint. I really did. I really, really did. I cleaned up my desk. I saturated my wet palette with some special water from work, like that super high grade stuff.
So you fed the mold in your wet palette?
Yeah. Yeah. I look,
a little science experiment down there.
Last time I left the wet palette closed for so long that it did start to get moldy, so I had to bleach and clean everything. And now I'm going to be fighting that for the rest of my life. So yeah, so it only gets the super pure, no nutrient water now.
No nutrient water. Deionized water from work. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I did bring some stuff down. I brought down my 5 primed Mechwarriors that I was hoping to paint up, because I was I just need something fun, and I couldn't muster the activation energy. So
sounds like you need a bump catalyst.
Oh no,
that's a science joke.
I do need to buy something. But unfortunately, due to the new laws of the Mechbay outline, if I don't have hobby progress, I have to pick a listener from the Discord who did have some hobby progress. So I'm going to instead briefly mention Cadet Hao Su and his SLDF Shootist that they are painting for their local Alpha Strike 350 League. Because you know what? It's a blocky looking mech. I just fought one against Jason Hansa, but this one, the Shootist was meant to be an SLDF green. That you look at that picture and you know.
It looks pretty sharp.
Yeah, they've done a great job actually painting the actuators a different color, and especially the cockpit. On those old mechs, it's kind of hard to tell what's cockpit, what's just face kind of, but they did an excellent job on making sure each of the windows was separated on its own color. So great job, Cadet Hao Su. And because we've had 2 weeks, I had to pick a second one because I didn't get anything done. So I'm going to pick Split Pixel and the first Havoc that I've seen painted from the new box set. And they've gotten blood spirits, red, gold, and black. And you know what? Makes me want to Havoc, right?
It's crisp. That picture is real
it's
clean.
Very crisp. Yeah. So good job on you guys for getting hobby progress instead of me. Well, Steve, did you get any hobby progress instead?
Yes and no. So I didn't buy anything, and I didn't get any blind boxes. So you can breathe a sigh of relief for that one. But what I have done is I've started a project with the airbrush. I have a lot of Citadel paints, and getting them out of these pots into the airbrush is a real pain in the keister. So I've started transferring paint out of pots and into dropper bottles. And normally I don't necessarily mind the pots, but getting them into the airbrush specifically is causing me to need them in droppers. So I set my kids up with a Disney movie, and then for the next hour and a half, I shake paint and dump it into droppers. And that's going slowly. I did get a hobby win, however. I had to order some flow improver that you help mix into the paint to move it over from the pot into the dropper. And I ordered one thinking this would get me so far and I'd figure out how I did. But Amazon goofed and sent me a box as opposed to a bottle. So a box contains 6 bottles. So that was great.
Nice.
Yeah, that was great.
The bank makes an error in your favor. Collect $200.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
No, not with the bank. But with Amazon, it's good enough for me. So I got a couple extra bottles of Flow Improver, which is great. And then I did actually finish painting my last 12 BSPs that have been sitting on my desk for like 2 months. So I finished the, warrior attack helicopters and the pikes and what I think I had the Devastators, whatever else was in there. The only 2 vehicles I am now missing from my painted BSPs are the MASH truck and the command center. So those are on my eventually get around to them painted thing for my BSPs.
You also need to get one of those SLDF force packs that has the ammo carrier in it.
The J27 transport.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I can talk about that a little later, but it is on my to acquire list. And then actual painting wise, I've started fussing with the Canopy in yellow. I'm trying a new technique this time using the Tamiya panel liner and working on figuring out whether I want black or brown or dark gray.
I like that. I was painting yellow. I decided to try a different technique and go with brown.
No, the panel liner for the dark recesses. I haven't done panel liner before, and it's an interesting process. So, but again, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have an airbrush. So we're learning.
Yeah.
This is the frustrating part of hobby progress that I hate. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I feel like I'm wasting time because I only have X number of hobby minutes a week. So you do something that doesn't work out. You're like, well, that was an hour and a half wasted. Great. But
you're building efficiency. That's what you're doing.
Not when I use the wrong hue of yellow and I don't like it. That's just a waste of time.
That's a learning experience. Yeah.
I know. I just don't like it.
I think I've told you, like, my first miniature that I painted, like, as an adult, I decided to do yellow, and I did the wrong yellow. And I was like, this looks like a bad McDonald's, like, Space Marine, Ronald the Space Marine. And I was like, we're repainting this.
Sounds like a new faction to me.
Yeah, no, I was not cool enough to have a new faction on my first model.
Yeah, but that's all for me, really. Mostly just transitions and in progress stuff. Denim, you get anything solid done?
I did Thunderhead, did all the Savannah map terrain, and then he re-released the vegetation pack.
Oh, cool.
So the trees have all been revamped. You actually have a single cacti now. Just basically, I've just been printing and painting stuff for all the Savannah maps. His stuff looks good. So yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah. You doing FDM printing for those, I presume?
Yeah. All of his stuff was designed to print on an FDM. It was mostly designed to be printed on an Ender 3, for that size. But he understands that other people have bigger printers, so now you can choose like the size of file you want, so you don't have to break it down if you don't want to. He keeps up with the times. I will be upgrading to a bamboo at some point in the next few months, so cool. I'll be excited to really try. That's going to speed things up a lot. Those things are way faster.
Well, you getting the one that has the multi-filament too, so you can do different colors?
Yeah,
that'll be cool. My buddy has 4
different colors.
Yeah, it looks sharp.
They're nice. They are nice.
Yeah.
I hope you had fun printing. Some people say that's a hobby all of its own.
It is, especially with the Ender. It's a good printer. It's a solid printer, but it's still a hobby where it's not push button go. You have to fiddle constantly. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to a bamboo is there's a lot less fiddling with it. They've really dialed that down. So
switching from hobby to production.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some games played. Guess what, guys?
What's that?
I got no games played.
Gasp.
I mean, hey, I was coming off of a tournament. I'm tired. Do you think I want to play people after a tournament?
Yes.
Yeah, normally
I want to do it at a palate cleanser. That's what I want to do.
After my industrial mech, fight. No, who would want to fight after that? But no, I didn't. My week got a little busy because I have to push everything back for tournament prep. So no games post tournament, but instead, me and Scott from ScotsGamer.com went to a local giant robot fight club. Now, Steve and Denim, I think I've sent some pictures of this to y'all.
You have. I still don't understand what this is. These are people that dress up as robots and then beat the snot out of each other.
These are people that dress up as robots. Think Solaris 7 with only like 4 C-bills to the mech's name.
Like Solaris 7 cosplay?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But not even like BattleTech robots, but like bad robots.
I mean, you've got like Wanda, the, kissing fish robot. You've got Animatronica, the dancing Chuck E. Cheese mouse with fights with the power of music. Pink Pony the Club, which is a pink pony with a club.
Oh no.
And my personal favorite, Terrorbite, the scourge of the of the digital world.
Okay, so you went to go see this giant robot fight club with Scott from scotsgameroom.com.
This was my second time at Giant Robot Fight Club.
What is so appealing about this? What is like it?
Imagine the best parts of community theater, a high school duct tape budget, and nerds pretend fighting in giant robots costumes in a ring.
Is there a lot of drinking involved?
During the intermission, they do nerd communion with Mountain Dew and Doritos.
Yeah, so I think that's a long way to say yes, Denim. I think a lot of people drink a lot at these events.
It sounds like there's some other things other than alcohol going on there, for sure.
Well, did you have a good time, Josh?
I had an amazing time. And Scott also had an amazing time. And then we got interviewed by the New York Times.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Why does Giant Robot Fight Club interest the New York Times?
Because it's one of those underground things that just is skyrocketing as people become aware of it, as it went from a basement to a music theater area, and now the world knows.
So is this like wrestling? Is there like a storyline that happens?
There is lore.
Okay, that's important.
Waiting for the Terrorbite redemption arc.
But he's the bad guy.
Well, yeah, that's why he's got to have a redemption arc.
He's got a mace that he pulls, and it becomes a flail.
Okay, that's pretty badass.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to need everyone that's listening to Google Giant Robot Fight Club. Yeah, so that's what I did instead of games played. No dice involved, but a lot more fun, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah. Steve, who did you play this week?
We had a couple games, actually, and one event that was a little local thing. The first one I played was kind of fun. We had Matt from Cross Electric Designs and Luke from the Discord. We'd ended up with an odd number of folk at the game shop that night, and we'd all kind of brought, I think it was 10,000 points, I think is what we brought. And what we did is we said, look, rather than doing like a 2-on-1 or splitting forces, I said, let's take the hex maps, and we oriented them in a giant triangle. And if you line them all up on the 9 row, your map sheets make like a triangle, and you can lay 3 maps together.
All right, never mind. I'm sold. This is how we need to put it in the book for the Hinterlands when they say that 3 maps is for scale 3.
Yeah, do the triangle. Dude, it's so cool. And the fact that it lined up was great. And there's one hex in the middle that is 1/3 of all 3 maps. So we put an objective token there, and we said, look, if you can get to the middle and hold that objective, you get 2 points. Otherwise, killing a unit gets you 1 point. And that was it. Very simple, right? Go to the middle, smash stuff, kill stuff, have fun. It was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be kind of a, now this might go not great or whatever. But Matt brought a Ryokan, a Shadowcat, a Gargoyle, and a Nova. And Luke brought a Warcrow, Novacat, Kingfisher, a Shadowhawk 2C, and a Phantom. And I brought myself a Greyhound. I'd never run a Greyhound on the classic table before, so I brought a Greyhound. I brought an Awesome, a Marauder, and a Wendigo. And that was kind of fun because I never played the Wendigo in classic either.
I was like, these are all mechs you have that I know you have and have painted.
Yeah. Well, I said, look, these are things that are painted and done. I don't want to fuss too much. And I brought them along. So actually, they were all my Free Worlds League colors because that was all the same paint scheme. But overall, it was a hoot. As I have said on this podcast before, and I continue to maintain, the Gargoyle has to have a magnet inside the cockpit, because at the top of turn 3, I head capped that thing from halfway across the map. So that got me a point. My awesome just put a heavy PPC straight into that gargoyle's face, and it felt amazing. And Matt from Cross Electric was a little bit bummed.
Hey, he took a gargoyle. I mean, you've been pretty clear that they've got, a bullet trap.
It's right there in the cockpit. So all told, I mean, there were some other cool moments. I mean, Matt ended up kicking the head off of a Warcrow, which was pretty cool. And my Greyhound pilot passed out and did not wake up. His Shadowhawk failed a PSR after I just blew the ever-living snot out of it, and it fell down and then crit that center torso to kill itself. That felt pretty good. There was a called shot from across the map on a downed unit that got me another kill when I killed the Nova Cat. So all in all, it was a great time. Luke got 1 kill, Matt got 2. I ended up with 3 kills, and no one took the center objective because no one lived long enough to get there.
Yeah.
So that was actually a lot of fun to do a 3-way fight like that. So if you end up with an odd number of people at your game shop or in your home or whatever, don't be afraid to put a third map sheet down and make the Triangle of Death.
Oh, I'm doing that for sure. I'm rather curious about this.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun with it. Just make sure that you do maps that don't have too much terrain, because we did like a bunch of the hills maps. So for the first 2 turns, we were all just climbing over hills trying to get line of sight to everybody. So use grasslands maps for that if you want to. Those are a little better. But that was a lot of fun. That was great. So thank you, Matt and Luke, for playing. Denham, what about you?
This wouldn't have been a few weeks ago, but over at the local shop, I was playing Thomas, one of our locals who's here all the time. He's a great guy. He said that he wanted to try out one of his new idea lists. And I'm like, sure. So I laid out my 7,500 points, and I'm like, just pick one of these and I'll play against it. So he looked through it, grabbed one, and we're about to start. And he's like, oh, this is a C3I list. And I'm like, oh, look, it's like my mechs don't have ECM. Before we got started, though, one of the other guys that hangs around sometimes on the edges but doesn't play a lot, named Garrett, wanted to join in. He just wanted to bring in a Stinger and a Wasp. So it was a 5-on-4, 5 mechs on my side, 4 mechs on Thomas's side, but the BV was pretty much equal. So we started off in turn 2. Garrett's like, I have mask on my Stinger. How does that work? So I explained to him how it worked, and he rolled a 1-1.
Oh no!
Broke a lower leg and a foot actuator, fell down immediately. So he ran way out to the flank, and he's just way out in no man's land, just on his face. Thomas brought the King Crab 005, the one with the 2 LB20Xs and the C3I computer. I'm moving up with my Thunderbolt, and it's moving up, takes an autocannon shot right to the torso, strips it. Last time it was ever hit the entire game. Wide open torso with ammo in there. It doesn't care. About the time that everyone's all in the middle, he's like, okay, I'll shoot the pulse laser on my Wasp. Hey, what does ECM do? I've got that. What does that do?
God bless.
Oh no.
Really? Now? You remember this now?
The King Crab was standing in woods on a little island. So, they have one little path of dirt and then just water around it. I'm like, okay, here's what you're going to do. Since we're all in close range anyway, and it doesn't matter anymore. You're going to DFA that King Crab. And then you're going to hit him and you're going to push him into the water. Turns out that the Wasp got shot at a lot, took 20 points of damage, survived, failed the DFA, landed, broke its leg off, but it still had to move the King Crab out of the woods. So it didn't go into the water because he failed the DFA, but he did move it out of the woods. And since the Wasp was still alive, nobody could get back into those woods, which left the King Crab exposed. And the poor Stinger finally made it all the way around, got to the rear, took 1 shot and died just instantly. But with the King Crab out of the woods, I was able to cripple it, and my forces won that one. I did allow him to drag some of his mechs off the field. But it was a close match. It was a fun match. It would have been a lot less close if I had bothered looking at the sheet of the Wasp to see that it had ECM. That would have helped a lot.
Just a touch.
My Crusader with the claws did manage to kill 2 mechs with physical attacks. None of them were claws because very early on, one arm got the claws blown off. The other arm got a shoulder crit. So you can't do any of that. So he went around kicking people to death, which worked out just fine. He's still fast. He still does a lot of damage with the kick. A lot of fun. Enjoyed that a lot.
I got a second game in that was the effectively Southern Assault Classic practice, just list building wise.
Mm-hmm.
I got to play my buddy Carl. It was good. List building wasn't really very difficult. I think the list building parameters were pretty generous to folks. They can bring most of what they want. So I think people are going to have a good time making those lists.
Did you use the fancy schmancy list submission sheet that tells you like everything that you can do?
No, I didn't, because I wrote the packet. I know what I need to bring. I don't need some spreadsheet to help me, but I did bring a list of Jade Falcons, and I brought a Summoner Prime. I brought a Rifleman 2C5 variant, which only has 3 large lasers, not pulse, 3 large lasers and 2 medium pulse. And then I brought a Hellbringer F, which has a bunch of medium lasers, an SRM6, and 2 LBX-10s. So my hope was punch holes and then crit seek. That did not work out because Carl brought a Marauder 2C, his Kingfisher D, and the bane of my existence, the Cauldron-born H, which has 2 Ultra AC-20s and runs 5.8. So that Cauldron-born just closed on my Marauder and did horrible things to me. I'm sorry, not my Marauder. Looked at the wrong sheet here. Closed on my Rifleman and did horrible things to it.
Doesn't that Cauldron-born just have an UAC 20, not 2 AC-20s, right?
I'm sorry, yeah, 1 UAC AC-20, and then large heavy laser
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that large heavy laser and then 2 medium heavy laser. It was just, and it's all on a T-comp too, right? So it's getting that to hit bonus, and it's like, oh my God. So that was a little bit rough. The closest I came in that mission is everything was dead, and my summoner was missing its ERPPC.
Buddy.
So it managed to jump behind the last thing that he had standing, which was that Kingfisher, and I shot his left torso. I'm sorry, the center torso rear, and got internal, and managed to get 2 engine crits, but I didn't kill it. And then it turned around the next turn and murdered me. So I'm like, I just needed one more critical hit. I just, because it was that close, just couldn't pull it off.
Horseshoes and hand grenades, Steve. Horseshoes and hand grenades.
I know.
Next
but
time,
it was a fun time.
Hand grenade.
Note to self: pack more munitions into your weapons. Need bigger booms.
Mm-hmm.
But so that was fun. I think it was just proof of concept for the list building for Southern Assault. So I think it'll be just fine.
All right, well, let's move on to some upcoming events. First off, we've got some salvage free-for-alls at Cantrip Cards and Games in Ithaca, New York on August 17th and September 28th. And that's leading up to FlagCon. If you are interested in those, you can find out more at OdysseusLegion.com. And we've got Toys for Tots charity tournament, a returning fan favorite for the MRC Georgia and local Southeast group at Level Up Games in Duluth, Georgia on Saturday, October 4th. So that's going to be MRC compliant, classic, 8K. So sounds like another event. So
yeah. We've got another one if you're in the Midwest near Toledo, Ohio, for the Glassed City WolfNet 350 Alpha Strike game. That's going on August 23rd at 11 a.m. until 6. Again, it's a WolfNet 350 doubles event, so you team up with a buddy and go nuts. Looks like this one is set in the Civil War, and entry is $20 at the door. You can find out more by reaching out on the Toledo Game Room website / Facebook page.
Now, I don't get to shout out cool people in the community enough, but I want to do that right now with friend of the show, Wolf Forza, and the inventor of the Squad Sprayer. See, I had heard about the squad sprayer, Steve, but what I did not know is the squad sprayer for airbrushing or priming or just painting. It can be used for all three of those. It spins the models. You apply the mech to the squad sprayer. It has a little, gear to turn the model. You do that, you can prime 360 coverage while holding it and not having to spray your hand. You can paint full angle control and turning it as you need. That was amazing. I did not know that, and I'm kind of mad that I've been suffering all these years by just spraying my hand and, dealing with that like a caveman when we have technology like the squad sprayer. So I wanted to thank them, and they so graciously wanted to give ourselves and any of the listeners a 20% coupon to thesquadsprayer.com. So if you go there and you enter Mechbay20, you can get 20% off on your Squad Sprayer 2.0. So, Steve, now you can paint those Canopians a little bit better, just like how they deserve, maybe. Want to take a quick break, and then we'll hit our main subject about war and how sometimes it changes.
A little bit. Just a little.
I have one question for you. Are you ready? Are you ready for this Sunday night when Solaris champion Matt Balcombe defends his title in the Solaris Super Slam? Say goodbye to anyone standing in Matt Balcombe's way. We take some 6 mechs in a steel stadium, shoots and ladders match in the Solaris Super Slam as Matt Balcombe fights his way to the top in his Battle Master. Right now you can own this awesome pay-per-view holodisc for just $59.99. Call now and receive not 1, but 2 extra holodiscs of Matt Balcombe's rise to the top and highlights in the arena.
And we are back. All right, folks. So, is BattleTech the game that's never changed? I swear they've never put out a new rulebook. Like, we're still on what? Edition 1? 1.1? 1.3?
1 point something.
1 point something.
Yeah, I mean, they've never put out a BattleTech 2 or 3 ever. Man,
BattleTech 2 Infinity and beyond, maybe.
It's all partial wings.
Yeah. Improved jump jets and partial wings. The Buzz Lightyear edition.
I think they said at one point that they were going to do a BattleTech 2 and they were just waiting for sales to drop below a certain threshold. It's pretty low. Like, it's got to be pretty low. Not like our sales going great, but once the sales get below a certain threshold, they would work on BattleTech 2, and it just never happened. Like in 40 plus years.
It's a good sign.
What I heard was when it got that close, it was either BattleTech 2 or campaign operations. And, well, folks, we have campaign operations, so. But for BattleTech, at least, a lot of stuff hasn't changed over the years. Like, well, some stuff has, but like it's mainly the way things are worded. Because let's get real, the old books, they were limited by, page count and formatting and wording. You couldn't put all the information in, all the edge cases. We didn't have formatting in the 80s.
I think the early rule books were like 30, 35 pages. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the whole game.
That's crazy small.
Including mech, like, construction rules were included in that 30-something pages.
And that just invites ambiguity and, misinterpretation. If you don't have enough space to be clear, it invites a lot of chaos.
I mean, you have to remember, this was a board game. Nobody treated BattleTech seriously. It was just a box set and a board game. And then someone decided we needed, more things. We need fiction and models and all that. And it's like, now we should actually start improving the foundation. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about how BattleTech has changed. I've played a lot of new players in like the last couple months, and some of them are actually like returning players from like the 80s and 90s. And it's been really interesting to play these people and to see their brains be like, no, that's not how it was. And be like, actually, it's like this now. And they're like, no. I'm like, yes, it's right here in the book. And it's right there in a very easy format, very easy to read. And they're like, well, that's not how it was when I played. And it's like, a lot of things aren't the way they are when you played.
Look, they had an onion on their hip, which was the fashion at the time. Okay.
Because as we'll find out here, the game has not changed a lot. There haven't been really a lot of rule changes as just rule clarifications, except for a couple few. But I do find a lot of the older players all had their own house rules, which they were taught, but nobody actually read the rule book. You know, there was like one guy at the store who would read the rule book, and then they just told the other people how to play. And any rules misinterpretations or house rules were just taken as that's how the game was. So a lot of these players are actually playing with house rules and not even knowing it.
Yeah, I mean, once I started reading the old rule books, like BattleDroids and BattleTech Compendium were essentially the two books I used to read the old was it sacred text, essentially. I realized how poorly a lot of it was written for an understanding purpose. So I was like, this is why no one played the game correctly, because no one could read it and understand it and it be crystal clear across 12 different households.
Yeah, mentioning BattleDroids, I am considering that like BattleTech has not changed in like 40 years. I am not counting BattleDroids in that because it has a different name, but it is a good starting point to see how the game was originally, and then it changed to BattleTech, and then there was a large period, decades of very little change. So I think it's a good idea to start with BattleDroids and see, you know, the first iteration and how it changed into BattleTech, which we still play today.
Steve, as the, I'd say, newest classic player on the podcast, like, are you ready? Are you ready to dive into the sacred text?
Josh, I don't trust myself to know the current rules. If you're going to ask me, did I know stuff about the old rules? I guarantee you the answer is going to be no. But I'm ready to learn.
Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're going to start with the best one right out the gate. Back in the day, remember, it wasn't called BattleTech. It was BattleDroids. And you know what that meant?
That George Lucas got to sue them?
Yes.
That's exactly what that meant. That is what happened.
But on the page, it says the pilots of these battle droids, these were the droid warriors.
Yep. Nope. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Ah, yes, my droid warrior.
Droids were cool back in the day.
Yeah.
Look, this is one of those lawsuits that I'm really, really happy happened. Like, only good stuff came out of that lawsuit. Unlike the Harmony Gold BS, this one changed the game for the better, for sure, in my opinion.
I just need it on the record. The droids in the time that we're using the word droid were not cool. They were not very posable and dynamic. It was guy in a suit, dwarf in a can with wheels. It's like, yeah, no, they're the warriors inside.
I don't know. The lawsuit itself seems strange to me because droid is just a truncation of android. Mm-hmm. And you can't.
If you have enough money, you can copyright anything you want. It just takes money.
Not always true.
Not always true. Only if you have enough money, Steve.
A lot of us in Detroit solve those problems with tire irons and parking lots. So, you know, don't get too uppity with your money.
So I need to start bringing that back. But yeah, that was the name. I needed a touch. Like, yeah, that's something that's changed, folks. I don't want anyone to call me that. We're only going to touch on BattleDroids because, like I said, it was almost an entirely different game.
Yeah.
One big point, movement. You could not walk through any mechs, even friendly.
Yeah, this game was even more abstract than BattleTech is now.
Jumping, in BattleDroids, did not care about elevation difference. You have a jump jet, you can jump as high up as you want. It's elevation
like
did not matter.
You jump into space, just like in Robot Jocks, right, Denham?
Yes. Robot Jocks, such a good movie.
Mechs were one level high back in the day.
I kind of read that, and what it said was if there's any terrain that's higher than basically level 0, you can't see through it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're one level high.
Squat mechs. Squat droids?
I mean, droids are like 5-6 feet tall.
We're not C3. We're not C3POs. We're R2D2s, guys.
Oh, no.
And this is when I found probably the most poorly worded part of BattleTech, them describing the woods rules. If the tops of any 3 wooded hexes or any 2 wooded hexes, if one of them is heavy and intervening, line of sight is blocked. Woods in target hex and intervening, which are not dense enough to block line of sight, still make attacks more difficult. I was like,
which is weird because you can't see through heavy woods at all. So who cares if one of them is heavy?
Exactly. That's the big takeaway. You could not see through heavy woods at all. It was just in line of sight blocking terrain you could shoot out of.
Yeah. That's weird because like seeing where that rule eventually led us, I know what they're going for when they write it like that. Like I can see how we got to where we are, but that's just so poorly written. It makes my skin crawl.
People, I wrote that word for word from the book. That was not me. That was him.
I believe this game came out in 1984, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. English has advanced, some might say. Regressed, but also advanced.
Yeet skibbity. Was that the regression or the progression, Josh? You tell me.
Definitely progression in my book.
Oh, no.
So just those few quick ones. I feel like we've moved. BattleTech isn't better that it's not using that wording, and B, those rules. Cannot walk through any mechs, even friendly. Jumping, not caring about elevation difference. Like those are pretty not great, right?
It's like the idea of a game, the alpha version that they let people play to figure out where all the problems were, and then the full release was in 1985 when they came out with second edition BattleTech, because BattleTech was named BattleTech on the second edition of this game. There's no first edition BattleTech.
I know the Jade Falcon player kind of wishes the elevation didn't matter for jumping.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just want to go into space and then come down on people.
What stuck out to me is like, imagine you have the Atlas and it's at the lead of the convoy and all the locusts are behind it, like honking their horns, like, let me through. And it's like, sorry, I can't get around me. I can't help it.
Driving in the middle of the lane.
It's the law.
Except there's no Atlas. Like there were 10 mechs, period. Yeah. And they're all the classic Robotech stuff. And Dougram.
The legally distinct borrowed anime mechs.
I'm glad those rules have changed. Do we want to advance a little bit to the BattleTech Compendium, which was, I want to say, 1990. So we've gone up 6 years. Clans are starting to be introduced. So like this is, we're in the actual, like, not a lot of different in the game now, right?
So are we going from second edition BattleTech to the Compendium in 1990?
Yeah.
That when that came out? So the game's been out for 5 years.
A good 5, a rough 5, a 5-ish.
A great 5.
Look, after the introduction of the double heatsink, everything went downhill. We know this.
Yeah. I mean, there are opinions that double heatsinks have ruined this game.
I know. I don't hold them, but that's the joke.
BattleTech Compendium, 1990. The one everyone knows, partial cover. Now mechs are 2 levels high. Like, I just need to state that intervening terrain is level 1. If you are behind it, it literally says you are harder to hit, but any shot that does hit is more likely to hit a critical location. You have +3 to your target modifier, but if they hit the punch table.
I actually knew about this. I had heard about this from other discussions, and it made partial cover a liability. You almost didn't want it.
No, not almost. We would trick people to go into partial cover just because of the 1 in 6 chance of hitting the head, especially once pulse lasers and T-comps were a thing, or LB autocannons. If you happen to hit with those with a -1 for the shotgun mode, like, it was, in no war game should you ever not want to take cover if you can. Like, cover should never be a detriment. It should always be a positive. And this was just not a positive. The +3 was not enough. The automatic punch table damage was just so bad.
Well, it's a good thing they got changed then, because, I mean, a lot of these hilly missions, or a lot of the hilly maps we see nowadays, right? Like that would just be a minefield. Like, oh no, I walked the wrong direction. I'm now
because you'd stop by a hill and somebody else would run their spider or whatever into a position where you now have partial cover against them. And they're like, no, I didn't want to take partial cover. You're like, too bad, you're going down.
No, I swear I'm standing completely open. Shoot me here. What I did not know, like we've all heard the partial cover used to be, I did not know is that the water was also affected, and it gave essentially a +2 to hit.
Because you were at a -1 to hit if you were in water.
Exactly. Yes. So it's actually worse partial cover in the old way.
It is. It was bad. Water is just dangerous in BattleTech. You don't want to be in there if you don't have to. Even today, it's not good. It's dangerous. And I think it's because there were a lot of scenarios where you were supposed to cross a river, and that was supposed to be frightening and dangerous.
This is Oregon Trail BattleTech edition?
Yeah. Up until I think 96, you got partial cover even from people at a higher elevation than you. I think it wasn't until 93 or 96 where they finally said, oh, the height advantage says you can't get partial cover against someone who is higher than you.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that was important.
Yeah. Now, all those old, stories are starting to sound a little bit more like PTSD, war reports now. It's like, oh, we were just crossing the river, then Johnny got shot in the face. I'm guessing we're all glad that changed.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any rules on here that I'm not happy about the change, but this one was so important. Like, it is one I think of like 3 main rules that got changed in BattleTech from 2nd edition until now, and this is the top of the list. Like, this is number 1, the biggest change and the biggest need. And honestly, if a game is over 40 years old and this is the biggest change, like, that's pretty incredible.
Let's move on to how did pilots used to have skills back in the day? Well, it's always been gunnery and piloting. I was actually surprised at that. I would have thought it would have been something different, but I was surprised that it was like, nope, all Intersphere are 4 or 5 and all Clan are 3-4.
Now, Josh, I got a question for you. You said, Intersphere was 3, it was 4-5 and Clanners were 3-4, but didn't in the old version, wasn't it 5-4 because piloting was first?
Yes, it was.
Right?
Very good.
Oh,
very good.
So there's another change about piloting skill, but
so when you were starting a game, there's no like, oh, I'm going to adjust the BV because BV doesn't exist yet. That's
there's years from now.
There's no balancing pilots. It's you're either the gunnery 4, piloting 5 for Intersphere, or you're randomly rolling and possibly getting worse. I'd say it's like 50-50 you're getting worse, 50-50 you're getting the same, and like 1% chance you're getting better. So, yeah, that was not a great way. I very much enjoy PV upskilling and having full control over my numbers.
I'm not sure if it's in here later, but when did we get BV? Was there a year that we got that?
Well, we didn't get BV. We got, I want to say, combat value first.
And that was in the 90s.
So we got combat value in 1994 in Tactical Handbook. Then we got BV1, which is the more refined, in 97 with Maximum Tech. And then BV2 in Tech Manual in 2007. And I love the article on Sarna that says BV3 ? 2012. We need to change it.
We've heard word that they're coming soon. TM.
No, yeah, but we've been hearing that since 2012. Yes.
So one thing I actually did like in the compendium for the skills is if you were playing like a narrative or campaign, it was explicit on how you upgraded your skills. Every 4 kills you get to increase one of your stats. No SP, no BV adjustment. It's like, you got to get out there. You got to kill 4 things.
That's a lot of killing.
It is a lot of killing, especially since it was all like intro tech type stuff. That could take a while. And when your pilot did die eventually after you were like a 2-3 pilot and it died, that was months and months of playing you just threw away. Like, your pilots mattered from the beginning. They mattered a lot.
That is so brutal. That also puts into perspective that like any 2-3 pilot was basically a mass murderer.
Yeah.
Wanted on 12 systems. Yeah, no, I mean, I like that. I like that it was that. I don't like that it was not, like, does not define. Like, does that mean I did the last shot? Like, what if two targets are simultaneously shooting? Like, ammo explosions?
The game was originally played for one-on-one players.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean mechs, like mech pilots.
We always did it last shot. See, that's the thing, is that you guys are all talking theory and stuff. Like, I was there at the game stores when it was played like this. Like, I know how people felt about their pilots and things.
I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago.
So I'm glad that we have BV adjustments and nothing is saying I have to come in as a 4-5, because, man, 4-5 really sucks nowadays.
I think 4-5 is a great place to start. I think that they set it as the base is fine. It's good, frankly, because it encourages you to upgrade stuff. And, when you start playing with 5 piloting, it only takes 1 or 2 critical hits in different games to make you really regret having a 5 piloting, because then you end up laying on the ground most of the rest of the game. Yeah. So,
all right, well, let's move on to something that was really something that like set me off on this. I want to know how the game was played back in the day that influenced mechs I take, and because we're kind of still seeing the sins of those, early designs. Like, why does everything have? Why were Infernos so good? Why do some players have PTSD and say, okay, that's not allowed at this table? And it's like, what's going on?
It's single heat sinks. That's what's going on right there.
I mean, we're in 1990. Clans are out. Double heat sinks exist. Like, Infernos in 1990. Any SRM2 or Streak SRM2 could have Infernos.
Yes.
I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why things like the Tukiad Shadowhawk 2 HT have 5 Streak SRM2s on it. Now, I thought that was designed in the last couple years and not like those years, but apparently they're still going by that's how it would have been designed back in the day.
Yeah, like the Firebee I think it's got 4 SRM2s as well.
Yeah, I'm like, why are we doing this? And it's to have Inferno missiles. Now, the cool thing or terrible thing is if a Streak or SRM2 with Infernos hits a target, not only is the mech, under the influence of Infernos, the hex it is in is under the influence of those Infernos. So that hex is now on fire. Even if the SRM2s miss, you fire at something that's got Team M12, that hex they are in is now on fire.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what's in the hex. If it's water, it is on fire.
Well, yeah, the propellant sits on top. That's fine.
The water's on fire. Everything's fine.
Everything's on fire. If it's a wood hex, it's on fire forever, the entire game. If it's a clear hex or a water hex or a rough hex, it's on fire for like 3 turns.
So then I had to check what Infernos are doing, because that's wild. Each Inferno is plus 6 heat. Each Inferno missile is plus 6 heat for 3 turns.
When you're rocking single heat sinks, like that's 60% of a PPC shot right there every turn for 3 turns.
It's oppressive. I mean, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You might as well just flip the table.
You can go underwater, but then you set the water hex on fire. So when you stand up, you're still in a fire hex. Because you can't crawl underwater. You can't get out from under it. You'd have to stay underwater for 3 turns to not be affected by the fire at all.
I don't want to play this game anymore.
Do you know what 2 Inferno missiles did, Steve?
I was going to say, wait till you get hit with the second one in that SRM2.
No.
What do you think happens with 2 Inferno missiles?
Well, I mean, I would have to guess it goes up to 12 heat.
No.
It goes to plus 6 heat for 6 turns.
Okay, so not double the intensity, but double the duration.
Double the duration. So you get hit with 5 SRM2s, and you're looking at for like 30 turns, you're on fire. You basically have worse than an engine hit for the rest of the game.
And this is why no one ever finished a game of BattleTech back in the day.
Yeah, because then you had the fire hex rules and the spreading and the smoke. This is why Infernos were not allowed to target any units other than mechs. So you were not allowed to fire them at infantry. You were not allowed to fire them at vehicles. You were only allowed to fire them at mechs. Problem is you can get around that. If you have 2 Firebees, that's 8 SRM2s, you shoot the hex, not the unit. You shoot the hex that the unit is in and all the hexes surrounding it. So it has to move, because if it's in a fire hex, there's a good chance it's just going to die flat out. So it has to move out, and all adjacent hexes are on fire. So it's going to be moving through fire hexes. Even though you didn't shoot the unit, you just shot the ground. It's their fault they stepped in it. And that's how people got around war crimes back in the day.
So that's why all of the elemental hunters are SRM2 mechs in, the early clan invasion. Like the things like the fireball now starting to make sense.
It's like remnants of the past that begin to like, oh, this is why they did this. I see.
So yeah, you can't target the elementals, but you can, surround them in a literally on fire forest, which was just the next step of rules. Like base rules is move, shoot, and that's it. And the next step is all the normal rules we play with today. So Inferno's just normal gameplay. Having fun yet, Steve?
No. That just seems far too good for what they are, right? And the fact that they've changed it, I think, is probably better for the health of the game as a whole.
Also, I can't imagine keeping track of like significant things for that length of time in a game that nowadays we play for 2 to 3 hours. But back in the day, all weekend.
Yeah, we'd literally go there Saturday morning and we'd leave sometime Sunday around dinner time.
It's a sleepover, gang.
Mm-hmm.
So now we'll move on to that was Infernos. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Fire. Yeah, it was normal rules. You got to roll 1d6 for direction at the start of the game. The fire spreads in the direction. And, front, you essentially treat that one, and the next 3 front of the wind direction catch on fire. And guess what they make? Smoke.
Yeah, so smoke always spreads. Fire sometimes spreads.
You know what smoke was back in the day? +2 to hit through it.
Yeah, it's just heavy woods.
I can imagine all the tables back in 1990, 1981 were just on fire, just insanely on fire.
Yep,
it was fire.
Melee made a much smarter choice in many battles.
Interesting caveat for that is mechs. If the hex you're in got lit on fire, you don't apply the heat that turn because it's happening in the shooting phase. Next turn you leave, you get +2 heat.
Yeah,
because you decide to walk out of it. If you stay, it's +5. I mean,
right. I was going to say if you're walking through it, it's +2. If you're standing in it and decide not to move, it's +5.
If you're not a mech, it's an 8-up destroy check if you pass through a hex on fire.
Every time you enter a fire hex.
Yeah. Remember that Ghost Bear map from the 2Kid? That's like, oh, here's all these fire tokens and whatnot. And no one ever plays with. It was not meant for the game we play, Steve.
I was going to say like that. Yeah.
Caveat, heat. Denim, was there a limit to the amount of heat you could take per turn?
I don't remember there being a limit. There was a lot of weird stuff going on between 90 and 2004. I remember in 2004 being told that there was a heat limit, but that's when most of these rules changed.
Yeah. Back in the day, there was no limit to the heat per turn.
Because now it's 15 heat from external sources.
Yeah, they don't make that napalm they used to.
It's not quite as sticky nowadays.
They just lost that recipe. It's that's lost tech.
Everyone's kind of happy for it. No one's willing.
No, everybody has it. Everybody has it, but nobody is bringing it out. They're like, oh, we lost that one too.
So that was the entirety of just Inferno missiles and how they completely determined how games were played.
And Infernos were one of the main 3 rule changes that I think affected me the most.
Steve's never taken an Inferno and looking at it the same way again.
I normally don't run a lot of alternate ammos, so if Infernos were this way today, I don't know that I would be
play BattleTech at all.
This game. Yeah, no, I'm very serious because that would heat weapons already are fairly frustrating to play against.
Now, to be fair, we didn't start with Infernos. That was a later edition. And then it was only around for, I guess, almost a decade before they fixed this rule.
You lost me after like 3 games of dealing with this stuff because I'd have flipped the table. I can't. It all feels bad. There's no benefit to this. You get hit. Great. You get heat. And now you're on fire for 3 turns. You miss. JK, the cubes are the hexes on fire, and it was absolutely your fault. And now there's nothing you can do. Oh, let me get out of this area. Just kidding. I set the next 3 hexes on fire around you anyway. So you're still in trouble when you run. and then you're going to go into water. But now the water's on fire. It's like, why? Why am I doing this? Right?
And then 5 turns later, the entire map is burning.
Right? Like what? Why?
It's why they played on Planet Bowling Ball maps with like 3 woods, and they were happy. Like, okay,
but it's not true. Like some of those maps in the early days were 90% forest. It was bad. It was so bad.
The game was bad, and the developers should feel bad. But thankfully, we have AMS to protect us from those nasty, nasty Inferno missiles. That's actually changed a lot. And
I'm waiting for you to tell me that AMS just didn't do anything.
Now, we've all seen, like, there's like one adder that has a whole bunch of AMS units, and you're like, why is this the way it is? This doesn't make sense. Well, back in the day, AMS activated before the to-hit roll. So you don't even know if the missile's actually hitting you first. And then AMS activates. Intersphere rolled 1d6. Clan has better, quote-unquote, flechette grade AMS. So they get to roll 2d6. Guess what, Steve? That's the number of missiles you shot down if it hits.
So SRM2s with Infernos, it's great because you're probably going to take out at least one.
At least one. Here's where it gets bad. Then you roll 1d6 times 2. Why? I don't know. For the amount of ammunition of the AMS you used.
It's like machine guns. It's just spraying that stuff in the air.
Exactly. Here's the wildest rule I have read in something from 1990. The missile flight, then, if they roll to hit, and if it hits, good, then acts as if the launcher was the closest legal size, i.e. an LRM-10 that got 3 missiles shot down becomes an LRM-7. There is no 7 on the 1990s chart.
I would say there was no 7. That is correct.
So do you know what that is then? An LRM-6.
for cluster purposes,
just right? Cluster purposes.
Okay.
So you actually technically got a free missile taken out if you rolled an 11 or 12. It still only hits you with 6, so you really shot down 4.
So
small miracles.
Yeah, and then they roll cluster and do all of that. And then the ammunition for the AMS was, machine gun grade for explosion purposes.
Now, I believe that you could fire multiple AMS at, like if there was an LRM-20 launcher, you could fire 4 AMS at it back then. Now, these days, you can only do one AMS per launcher being fired at you.
Correct.
But I believe back in the days, you could fire all 4 AMS at the same incoming missile flight.
I mean, that would make sense of why there's some mechs that have multiple AMS. It's like, nope, you will not shoot me with missiles. I declare
until
no
you
missiles.
Run out of ammo.
Yeah. I'm going to be real. I never want to play AMS like this. Like, I will just take -4 to the cluster roll. Like, I don't have to roll to hit with AMS. It automatically happens. Yeah. Steve shaking his head.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to add here. It's just, I understand what they were going for. I understand how they came to that conclusion. I think that the way that it functions now is both more streamlined and more balanced, right? And this just seems overly complicated for the results that, I mean, I get it. I mean, it makes sense in its own, microcosm here, but I just have to ask why do this?
And to me, it's a minor rule change. Like this one, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I never really thought much about it. Unlike the Infernos and the partial cover, like this one was like, okay, cool, makes sense. But to me, it was more of an errata than a rules change.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think this is groundbreaking or anything like that. It just streamlines the game, makes it easier to do, less, just less slop, right? There's less word mush that you need to sort through in the newer versions. But this is, like I said, it makes sense to how we got here, but I don't like it. I don't like a lot of these. A lot of these leave
bad
taste flavors in my mouth. Yeah.
If someone said you're going to play a game and that's how something works, when like you've tasted what it will become, and you're like, no, I'm good. I don't want to play retro tech. Let's move on to some ECM, because I was interested in this one too. In the past, it eliminated the effects of Artemis, Narc, and C3, because C3I wasn't technically a thing yet, in range. Or if it is between. Yes, and it specifies if it is in between, if an ECM bubble is in between a Narc beacon and the firing mech, the Narc is blocked because you're shooting through a wall of jamming.
That's interesting because that's how ECM functions in Alpha Strike.
Yeah, exactly.
The bubble is allowed to intersect line of sight and will then disrupt.
Not for Narc, though.
But for everything else,
yes.
I don't understand. I think whoever designed ECM doesn't understand how ECM really is in the real world. Like, I still think that that's one of those things that it should have to cover the source mech. Like, it should have to cover a mech, not just be an intervening bubble for anything. But that's my opinion.
Oh, look, man, you're preaching to the choir on this one. The other side of the ECM argument, probes. Guess what? They've literally done the same thing this whole time. It literally says in the book, if you're not playing with hidden units, it has no purpose. Word for word.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. WTF, guys.
The only rule change is the optional rule they added then.
Yeah. So the rules changed that they didn't make the rule, automatic. It's now optional, and it's like, but there's not really a rule to start.
The optional rule being it can ignore, if it's in range, the target is in range, you can ignore one point of woods that's intervening terrain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I wanted to touch on this because we've all heard me talking about rotary autocannons a whole lot lately. Did you know?
Those are cool.
Yeah. I mean, we've all read Isle of the Blessed. It's really cool how they're shooting all their rack shots in the same location somehow. And all the rotary autocannon mechs have target computers to let that happen. Because back in the day, if you aimed shot a rotary autocannon, all hits, all the Gatling action hit that same location.
Now, here is a caveat that I don't see mentioned here in the notes. What is the best rack? Because you could fire
arguably 5 now. If you shoot 5 shots for 3 on the chance of jamming.
That wasn't an option. You could fire 1, 2, 4, or 6. Those were the only options that you could fire. You could not fire 3 or 5.
I mean, why would you? The cluster table dictates all that we do.
Yeah. And there's no... I mean, there's an LRM5, so there is a 5 table already.
We're not making an extra slot just for the rack 5. Now, the good change, though, is aimed/called shots with target computers may now no longer be performed with pulse lasers or ultra/rotary autocannons firing more than one round. Yeah, I don't even want to imagine those days.
Yeah, I honestly didn't play with racks back when that rule existed. I didn't start playing with racks till after COVID, and I love them now. It would have been even better with a targeting computer back then.
Oh yeah,
to the level of being gross.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just gonna say, pulse weapons have always been -2 to hit.
No, but even still, pulse lasers aren't slamming 25 damage.
Fire a rack with 6, and then they all hit the same location. That's 30 points of damage in one location.
Let's talk a little bit more about that target computer. Most of it's the same, except if you did like the aimed shot, you could only hit the side. Like if you are in the right side of a target, you can't target left leg, left torso, left arm.
Right.
Okay, at least your heart's in the right place on that one.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why they got rid of that. Like it
it makes sense. It's one sentence, guys. Come on, you can do better.
I don't. If you're firing on the left side, you can only hit left objects. I mean, I don't know if I love that. I mean, there's got to be some small chance I hit your arm on the opposite side.
Well, there is. Don't use the targeting computer.
Yeah.
You can't aim at you can accidentally hit that torso with the pass-through shot. You roll a 9 on the right side and you hit the left torso, but you can't aim for it because the mech's like guarding it and stuff. So,
but the computer's doing all the heavy lifting. Why can't they?
The computers there were so bad.
Yeah,
so bad.
Feed the gerbil more food; it'll run faster, and you can process, that left torso.
Yep.
The other part of the targeting computer, if you were aiming at the head, like if somehow it all aligned, like most of those rules are the same now, it's still a +3. But for the head, you just need to roll above an 8, and you just are hitting the head. Nowadays, we've adopted the other half of the 6, 7, 8. So it's like kind of targeting in the bullseye. I thought that was neat, but not really critical. I mean, rarely do we get the chance to T-comp aim shot the immobile target. You want to know a good change, though, Steve? That's probably applicable to all of us.
What's that?
Mask. Mask has changed in one critical way. If you failed the mask roll, your leg locked up and you were no longer allowed to move.
You weren't immobile, but you were
not allowed to move anymore.
Seems a little harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very harsh.
And like
it was very, very harsh.
Honestly, when I was at Brawl in the Bluegrass, my mask failed 2 out of my 3 games. It was pretty ugly.
But you still had a mech that could do something.
Well, but that was it. It's like, okay, like I didn't blow my leg off, but it's hard to run and do bad things now. Like, okay, fine. But I don't think I would have run mask if it was, if you mess it up, you're just stuck.
Yeah, you're just stuck. Your mech does not move. It was bad.
It just seems like in a lot of these rules, the punishments were just so much more harsh for no reason.
A lot of these changes that I consider as errata are just making the punishment less. That is correct.
Because I'm starting to wonder, like, did the developers want you to play this game?
They wanted a gritty war sim. They didn't think about this, at least in my opinion, did not think about this as a game. It was war simulation, son.
Specifically based on World War II-ish, in their heads.
Your tread's got to mobilize. That's life. Get over it.
I know you can see my face, and the listeners at home can't see my face in this audio-only format, but it doesn't sound like a good way to spend an afternoon. I mean, go throw a baseball or something, right? Touch grass. Don't do this and hate your life.
You don't tell me what to do.
I will tell you what to do, Denim. You don't have to listen, but I'll try.
I'll go back to Narc for a real quick one. It hits. The Narc hits like normal. There's no location of the probe, gentlemen. It's just on the mech. Let's say it would, like nowadays, you'd hit the arm. If the arm gets blown off, the Narc beacon goes with it. Back in the day, you are narked until you are dead.
That's like an Alpha Strike. It doesn't go away in Alpha Strike.
There was also no free spotter bonus. It was just +2 to the cluster.
Narc's one of those things that sounds OP and stuff, but I've rarely used it to great effectiveness. I mean, I'm sure people have. It's just not something we did a lot in our games.
Yeah. And I'll just hit these 2 real quick because I was actually surprised at how much alternate ammunitions they had before, like what we consider our alternate ammunitions, because they also had Swarm LRMs and Thunder Fast Cam as just normal rules. Swarm being the fun, fancy technology where if you miss the target, back in the day, you just straight up tried again on an adjacent hex target.
Is that not how they work now?
They are, but I want to say it's a little different. So swarm missiles now, if let's say a LRM 20 hits, you roll the cluster, 12 of those missiles hit the target. The other 8 missiles that did not hit the target then get to start doing the swarm things and target things in the same hex or adjacent hexes. If the whole flight of swarm misses, then it gets counted as a secondary target attack, essentially. So it's definitely not as easy, and it's a little more punishing. It's not a freebie. For Thunder Fast Cam, aka the Minefield LRMs, yeah, you would target the hex the mech's in, because even leaving it exploded on a 7-up.
Yeah, we would use these a lot. Archers, a lot of our, like at least one bin in every archer we ever took had Fast Cam.
Gross.
Yeah, there's that scene in the Tukiad book where it's just like the mech pilot, the clan pilot is just watching the Fazcam LRMs just spray the walls of the canyon. You're like, why are they doing that? Oh, back in the day, it was just a 7-up. Even if you left it, you would get 20 points of damage. Yeah, that won't, not fun.
I miss those days. I like the Fazcam stuff.
We can bring it back, but I know nowadays for minefields, leaving does not. You're on the edge and you just walk into the next hex. Steve, you want minefields, infernos, and
that at least seems less of a huge change. The inferno changes I think are a must, but entering or leaving, I mean, if you're in the middle of a hex and there's mines all around you, I mean, it kind of makes sense that they would go off if you tried to leave. I get it. That's not crazy. I don't hate that.
I'll end the classic rules discussion on one major one, because remember, we had elementals and all of the pain that they bring. That was all we had. If they were riding an Omnimech, they take the damage to the torso location they're in first. There wasn't a 5-up to see if they got, avoided the damage and the mech takes it. Nope. They're a blade of armor, whether they want it or not.
Interesting.
remember, the locations are right torso, left torso, and then the rear torso. So it's kind of better for the clan mech pilot, but worse for the battle armor.
Yeah.
Denim, do you ever remember, battle armor getting squished?
Yeah, of course. Like we'd intentionally leave battle armor on mechs for extra armor, not necessarily to go be infantry, but to be a blade of armor. Like it's how we used it, and I think they took that rule and changed it to get people to stop doing that as much.
So those were the cool ones that I picked out. Those were all the major things that I looked at and was like, yeah, I'm really glad I didn't play it this way. Denim, did I touch on your 3 major things?
I did have 3 major things. And no, you did not hit all of them. So number 1 for me was partial cover. I think that was an actual huge rule change and super important. The second one was, in fact, Infernos. Big changes, super necessary. But the third one, like a lot of these, like I said, were mostly errata. But the third one that I think was an essential change was how they ended up doing physical attacks. Because all the way up into the 90s, physical attacks didn't care about your piloting skill. You just had base numbers to hit. Like a punch was a base to hit of 4. A kick was a base to hit of 3. I think a charge was a base to hit of 5. But a charge still compared your piloting skill against the other guy. And the difference in that was the modifier on that. So if you had a good pilot, then you could get a better charge off. But if you were a worse pilot, then the other guy was just going to laugh at you. These days, your base it's all based on your piloting skill. So the better your piloting skill, the better you are at melee combat. But you could have a 0 pilot and your punch still base 4. And then you had to deal with movement and terrain added on top of that.
So piloting was purely just to stop from falling.
It was just for PSRs. For if you took 20 points of damage, you needed a PSR. If you walked through water, you needed a PSR. But for all physical attacks, it didn't care about your piloting skill at all.
Came with the mech.
Now, back then, charges were the only ones that did a comparative between the piloting skills. Nowadays, it's charging and death from above. But back in the old days, death from above didn't care. Your death from above was normally an 8 up, unless there was like something weird, something else going on.
So does that mean like me jumping and trying to kick a like running mech, like a Locust or something with Team M4, it was still just a 3 up to kick it, or was it still taking in the modifiers?
Yeah, no, if you jump, so the base started off as a 3. But it didn't care about there was no -2 to kick because it was just a base 3. So a 3, you jumped, that's 6. The Locust had a TMM of 4, so that's 10. If it's in light woods, that's an 11.
Okay.
And nowadays it's you take your piloting skill and then you add the jumping, the modifier, the woods, and then -2, and that's your number. So the better you're piloting, the better your kick. The better you are at kicking.
So it just assumed everyone was 4 or 5 for physicals, really.
Well, it just didn't care. It's like, this is the base number, the base to hit. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was nuts.
Don't like that at all. A lot of these changes are just horrible. I hate
that. Was a huge change. No, the changes were good.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I said that wrong. The changes are good, but these are.
Yeah. In my mind, there were those 3 which were the most defining. Like for a game that's been out for 40 years and has never had a version 2.0, like those 3 aren't really that big a deal in the overall view of it. But those were the most important ones. Like they actually mattered, but that's all we had. Like you can literally take the instruction book out of the original 1985 box set and the game is almost indistinguishable with what you're playing right now with the 7th edition Battle Mech manual. Almost indistinguishable.
I mean, I'm definitely happy that I'm not playing the on fire, mainly on fire. You know what?
And the Inferno rules, to be honest, were not in the 1985 rule. But the physical attacks and the partial cover were.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we're not talking about rules that were introduced later and then changed, because the clan invasion just brought in, like they wanted that power creep. They wanted the clans to be something cool. They wanted to add new tools and more excitement in the game. And I think they did that too fast, and there wasn't enough playtesting. And so there had to be a lot of errata dealing with that. But as far as core rules go, really, it's just those two that are really that important: is partial cover and physical attacks being based on your piloting skill. It made piloting relevant, and it made taking partial cover not the most worst, horriblest thing in the world.
That's why there were so many headshots in the 2K books. That, you know what?
Yeah.
It's all making sense. Everything's on fire. Everything's getting headshot, and there's a lot of mines everywhere.
Yep. So. You step into water, your head's gone. It just is. I think in general, Classic is doing pretty well for 40 plus years.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't know a whole bunch about Alpha Strike, so I'm going to pass that over to you guys.
Steve.
Yes.
Steve, we've been here since the beginning of Alpha Strike, though, right?
It's true. Well, not exactly the beginning. When I did this portion, I did not go so far back to the original, root of this, which was like Battle Core and Quick Strike.
That wouldn't have been fun.
No, it's just a little bit too different from where we are today to really compare apples to apples, right? Yeah. So I started back with the original Alpha Strike. This is before Alpha Strike Commander's Edition. Well before then, there was just Alpha Strike and the Alpha Strike Companion. And there were a lot of weird, I call them weird. They seem weird now, but at the time, I don't think they were particularly strange. I don't know if you know this, Denim, but originally in Alpha Strike, there were no movement modes. Ground movement was the only option. And if your unit had jumping movement, you always jumped. You didn't have the option to run. You always jumped.
You were jumping.
Correct. And if you did not move, you didn't get the standstill bonus that you get in current. And at the same time, you didn't lose your target movement modifier. But also, in order to balance it, if you did always jump, you did not get the +2 attack modifier. So movement was just totally different, right? A totally different animal.
It's so different. I don't know how to feel, kind of.
Well, it was supposed to be super abstract because they really wanted a lot of units on the table, and so they wanted a lot less rules to slow things down.
Yeah,
movement. If you take something that's complicated in Classic like movement and you just distill it into its base form, I can see where the goal was for that of just making it super distilled, super abstract. Let's just get the units out there on the field and not worry about that. That will all come out in the end, when the battle's done.
Yeah, and what's curious about this, right, is that it makes jumping mechs way more powerful in general because you don't get the +2 to shooting and you always get to jump. So you just start ignoring large chunks of terrain, right? You just straight up ignore it. And if you're a ground pounder, you have to walk through the woods, which I thought was, jumping very, very powerful in the original Alpha Strike. And the ability to select movement modes between jumping and running for your jumping units only came about in the Alpha Strike Companion. With the advent of the Alpha Strike Companion, that is also where we got the now wildly popular multiple attack roll optional rule. That was its first iteration. So those were like the original OG kind of where it was originally to where we are now. So then we got, Alpha Strike Commander's Edition, which is really the streamlined, cleaned up kind of version that we have today. But even still, there have been changes since that original Commander's Edition has come out. So this is where a lot of these other changes kind of come through.
Why is it the way it is kind of thing?
Yeah, this is just a kind of a history of the changelog, right? A long changelog that kind of progressed. In the original Commander's Edition, I got to talk about critical hits because it was surprisingly different from how they are now. Right now, when you roll a natural 12 on your to shoot die, right, your shooting die, it's a through armor critical hit.
Yep.
And if you do damage into internal structure, you get 2 critical hits. Cool. In the original Alpha Strike, 12s didn't do squat. You just hit like in Classic, right? And going from originally playing Alpha Strike, moving over to Classic, I still roll 12s and I'm like, I got a 12. Oh, that doesn't do anything. I just hit my target. That feels so bad. You get all excited and it just drops. In Commander's Edition, 12s now give you that critical hit, right? So that's that advent of where that came from. And I don't know, Josh, I mean, you think that the natural 12 was a good addition?
It's one of those where if the purpose is to make game's fast with like 40 units on, no, you're not stopping for crits. Like, that's not a thing anymore. It's just part of the damage. If you want a fun narrative experience, yeah, you kind of need like, oh, I sniped you from across the table in one shot with a stinger. Get wrecked.
Yeah, I think it's good. I like the natural 12 crit rule because it's just exciting to roll boxcars, right? You're like, yeah.
Narrative story events like that are what makes BattleTech cool. So if they left that out, I think it would be a detriment to the game.
I agree. So Alpha Strike Commanders Edition rolls along for a while, has a couple of errata, some language changes, nothing substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the 6th edition, or I guess the 6th reprinting of the rules.
I was there actually for that.
Yeah, I was as well. And it's funny because these are some of the things that really made a lot of waves when they got changed. And I think a lot of these are for the better, but we'll touch on them briefly, right?
Yeah.
Transported units counting as initiative sinks. So it used to be that you could take your infantry that was inside of a mounted vehicle, and for initiative purposes, you could say that infantry continues to ride in that, transport. I'm sinking the initiative that turn. Presently, the change was if they're not on the board, they don't count for initiative, right? So you can't have elementals mounted on your dasher count as an initiative sink. They're just attached to the elemental. They move at the same time. You don't get to like individually count them.
When I started playing, this was the rule. And I was like, what kind of cheese monger? Like, no, man, I'm took more battle armor that ride. It's like, nah, don't do that. Like, that was my tire iron moment.
Yeah, I think Protomechs should be counted as one unit for initiative purposes.
That would be an interesting change to see.
I mean, that's how it works in Classic, and it works just fine. So
I agree. You have to move all 5 Protomechs as one initiative. That would be an interesting change.
Classic needs to do like Alpha Strike and let them all be free. Be free, my minions.
But yeah,
so I'm happy with that change. Like it never felt like for no other game does something inside a transport get to make that action.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. If I ran a full Nova, 5 mechs with 5 battle armor mounted on those, you would have to move 5 units before I even moved, right? And that's wild. That's like I'm moving half my force before you have to move anything. That feels bad. So I think this was a real positive change for balancing purposes, right?
Agreed.
The next big one is, as I'm sure, I mean, you've both played Southern Assault. You've seen other tournament packets out there. Why does almost every competitive Alpha Strike tournament have no more than 2 jump strong units, or a maximum of a jump strong 2 unit available for list building?
Because it was really annoying. It was really annoying.
Not only was it annoying, but when the original cards got produced, there was an issue with the jump strong cost calculation. It wasn't calculated properly in PV cost.
I was going to say they were cheap too. They
were incredibly cheap. So that's why you end up with these jump strong unit caps in a lot of tournaments. There has since been a recalculation of the PV cost for jump strong units. And it's funny because most of the tournaments have not removed that list building restriction. It's probably just a holdover, right? People either don't know about the PV change, or it might just be that jump strong is still pretty annoying to deal with.
It can make a negative play experience when everything you're trying to hit is always, on that upper band. It's like, come on, man, give me. I came here to shoot something. I don't care if it's like not damaging you, but I need to hit. Like if I'm just rolling to roll, then I'll go home.
I just thought it was curious that the original rationale for that restriction has now been corrected, but the rationale, the restriction remains. So that was another relatively big change.
Sins of the father, Steve. Sins of the father.
Along those same lines, right? We were all there when the infamous Tortoise 2 debacle, right? I mean, they were dumb cheap. And so battle armor was very, very cheap prior to 6th edition. And this is because there was, in the PV calculation table, there was something called a brawler discount. And because the battle armor were so slow, they got a massive discount. But a lot of these battle armor could be transported, so they didn't end up with the penalty that other brawlers got, right? So this resulted in extremely strong units getting a massive discount, and the hindrance of their movement penalty was just easily mitigated by mounting them on something or putting them in a unit to transport. So they recalculated all the battle armor and infantry PVs to correct those.
That broke so many lists that year, though. So many lists.
It was so nice to like see the salt on the list I was building isn't valid. Oh, I just custom made all these tourists. It felt like music to my ears because everyone knew it was a problem. It's just like, okay, yeah, I'm glad they are catching in this hole essentially.
The increase in cost, a lot of people don't think went far enough, right? Like there was a marked increase in point value for a lot of those units, but not enough to prevent you from running them. So they're still out there. People still do them, right? Just be careful, because if you underestimate them, they'll ruin your day. But what was curious about this change is that this change dropped immediately after Southern Assault had happened. And a lot of people thought it was because of the Southern Assault tournament with the prevalence of those Tortoise 2s. That's why it got changed. It just happened that's when it got released. And the poor Las Vegas Open had to deal with those immediate changes for their tournament in January, which was just 2 months after the rule change happened. So the Las Vegas Open got kind of smucked on timing, but it was not. I did speak with Joshua Franklin about that, and it was not because of Southern Assault. It was just happenstance that the timing worked out the way that it did.
Catalyst doesn't move that fast, so it couldn't be like that. It had to have been something that they saw was a problem, that we're working on the problem, and it just happens to be coincidence that that's when that release came out. It would be amazing if Catalyst could have a turnaround that quickly of an issue that pops up.
I almost wouldn't trust it if it happened that fast, right?
That would be amazing.
Speaking of infantry, getting in and out of vehicles, right? How did these Tortoise 2s jump out and murder people so quickly? There was a huge change in 6th edition regarding embarking and disembarking.
I love this.
This is, yeah. So before, battle armor and or infantry that were disembarking from a transport couldn't move. They were sitting ducks. They literally dropped out the back ramp and stared at the grass for the rest of their turn. They did not get their target movement modifier at all. They got no TMM for disembarking, which meant that is when you struck. You had to have line of sight to those infantry when they got dropped off so you could promptly murder them. Otherwise, they would jump or roll around or they get their TMM and they become a problem. Now, any unit disembarking spends 1/2 of their movement getting out of their transport, and they may move 1/2 of their movement. And if that half of their movement is more than 1 inch, they would then gain their TMM. Even if they don't move after embarking, they count as having moved, so mimetic armor doesn't trigger. So all these infantry that would dump out with mimetic armor, so now you count as moving because you're spending half your movement. Mimetic won't trigger, but if you're like an elemental, you can still jump 3 inches. You get your jump movement, right? And that comes from Omni versus disembarking a vehicle. You can't jump out of a vehicle.
That made a significant change in my list building.
Yeah, they became way more viable. They wouldn't get absolutely murdered on turn 1. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on this change?
The game was annoying back in the day. Like, it was solid, but like all of these improvements just made it more enjoyable. Like, it took away a lot of bad feelings, a lot of like, I don't want to say hurt feelings, but yeah, it's like, oh, great, I'm playing that. Like, yeah, there's still that around and everything, but it's like all these kind of balanced a lot of things out.
And I think a lot of these are for the better, right? Something else that we don't see a lot of in Alpstrike, at least I haven't, is there used to be levels within buildings that infantry could climb the stairs or take the elevator and go up. And this would change how much they could see. So if you were outside of or on top of or in a building, you could say like, oh, well, you can't see over that level 2 hill because you're on the first floor of the building, right? You got to go up the elevator to look over that hill. Now, you're either outside of it, on top of it, or in it. you don't have to worry about what floor you're on inside the building. You know, I got to take the sweet floor to shoot over that hill. No, nothing like that.
Definitely a holdover from Classic where it does matter, but at Alpha Strike, it needs to be more abstract. I think this was a good change for sure.
I just simplified it for sure. Granted, I don't think I've ever seen this rule come up because in most tournaments, buildings are indestructible unless you're really playing in a narrative game, and then it might come up, but the infantry don't really go into buildings unless it's a
rare narrative scenario.
So we had another change to alternate ammunitions.
Right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah, right. You used to have to declare ammunition and only use the special ability damage for that special ammo. So if you had an SRM-3, right, on your card, you could only, I want to fire my Inferno or whatever. I want to fire whatever. You could only use that much damage that was listed on the card. Now, alternate ammunitions are rolled into standard weapon attacks, and you just apply some modifier to it. I think that this change made alternate ammos way more usable, way more streamlined. It cuts out a lot of crunch that wasn't necessary for an abstract game like Alpha Strike.
Yeah, I mean, for real, that's the whole key for a lot of these is to bring the streamline back. Like Alpha Strike is not Classic. I know it draws a lot from Classic, but it needs changes like these to keep it abstract and keep the flow better, because that's what you want.
I think alternate ammos for Alpha Strike still need like a second look over. Like I think you and me, Steve, have both experienced the oops all special, and it's like, okay, like, but why am I not using them? Like, are they just free or do I get them? So yeah, so this was a great first step, I think.
Yeah, I think there's still some tweaking that could be done, but much more of a sustainable place where we are now. It's at least palatable, right, with where we are. Speaking of palatable changes, tag.
No, that's never had any changes.
There's going to be another edition of this game, I'm sure. Like, so fingers crossed.
I'm not talking about how tag used to be because it was a nightmare. It is now better, but it ain't great. And it's going to get better soon. TM. They're working on a complete overhaul of tag and artillery, and we might be able to revisit the topic then, but I have seen so much discussion about this topic that it just needs to die. So I'm not going to talk about it, but just know that tag has gone through multiple revisions to where we are now. It is better than it was. It's going to get even better. So just hang in there, give the guys time to work on what they need to work on, and we'll come back to that later.
Steve, how does tag work?
Next question. So this is actually a fun little factoid. Front-loaded initiative, right? A lot of places use it. We haven't really seen it in a rule book anywhere, right?
No, the only place it's in is the initiative deck, officially.
And it doesn't call it front-loaded initiative. So it's not even labeled as such, but it is. It's just not labeled as that. So that's where, people are like, it does not. Yeah, it is.
So what I want you to know is we are now in the 7th edition. As of recording, we're in the 7th edition of Alpha Strike, Commander's Edition, or 7th reprinting, whatever we're calling it.
Boy, I hope this episode comes out before 8th.
Oh, yeah, right. It comes out tomorrow. Oh, no. Right now we're in the 7th. Front-loaded initiative was intended to be included in the 6th reprinting, but it was pulled in, on the cutting room floor. It got pulled for later implementation, and rumor has it we're hoping to see something come out around Aces.
Yeah, it's a good place to put it.
Because with the way that the computer, I call it a computer, with the way that the card decks function for Aces, front-loaded is going to be a big help in all of that. So I like front-loaded initiative. I think it's a lot more fair. I think it helps lessen the blow of getting, losing initiative over and over and over again. I can't wait for this to become an official, optional, maybe even primary rule.
I don't think anyone hates it except the person that, takes 40 different, battle armor infantry units. That's like, oh no, it's literally like you hear about the 20 Savannah Masters will solve any problem. It's like not in front-loaded initiative. Oh,
yeah.
20 to 40 Savannah Masters can make it so you can't move no matter what initiative you've got.
It's not the
Yeah, but it's not the end all. It's not like it was, for sure.
But I think those are that's like the major history of changes in Alpha Strike. When I was doing research for the episode, Joshua was very, very helpful in highlighting some of these. Because, Josh, you and I lived through, all of these, but the big ones for 6th edition, we were there when that happened and saw the waves that it caused. But, he had a couple that I had not remembered or had not noticed because it didn't impact me.
No, we blocked them out from the PTSD because no one was there and enjoying it. Like, they were like, why am I playing this? And it's like, there's a reason why Josh only played 2 practice Alpha Strike games before we go into Southern Assaults. Because, the few broken pieces were like stepping on glass.
Especially, the initiative syncing one. I think that's probably one of my big shifts. Yeah. Right? That was huge.
And I want it on the record. I did step on glass and then go to play a 6th edition Alpha Strike tournament, and I still was like, no, the glass wasn't that bad.
God, I remember that you were getting ready to walk out the door and you just right in the foot.
Yep, right before Nova.
That's for Wilson.
But would I consider these as bad as Infernos and partial cover? No. That was, I don't know.
We're also talking about a significantly shorter time period though, right? So maybe there's something that they're going to come out with that's going to drastically change how the game works, and it's going to be great, and we'll all be happier for it.
Because not Inferno, but the partial cover, like that came out in 1985, and it wasn't officially fixed until 2004.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I hope we don't have to wait that long for tag to get fixed.
Then we can unban it from the server.
Right.
Yeah. But even Infernos, still over a decade. Still over a decade.
So my final thoughts are things better if they don't change?
Depends if they're good or not.
I think BattleTech specifically, not BattleDroids, but BattleTech specifically has a very, very good foundation. Obviously, it needs tweaks. I still have some things that I would like to change about it. But in general, the game as it was created is fun. Like, it's a lot of fun. So the little bits that do need to be changed, like Infernos, the structure of the game far outweighs that. And you can have fun games even with the few problems that it had. So am I glad that they're changing those as they come along? Yes. But I'm super glad that in general, it doesn't need an overhaul. It doesn't need a BattleTech 2.0. Just a few errata here or there. And it's great.
It really is a testament to the forethought, right, as to what was put into how the game runs. But I will ask you this, Denim. If you could change one thing or make one errata switch in Classic, what would it be?
I think the only thing that I would really tweak right now, I would say you always have to make a PSR if you jump. That's probably the big one that I'd have. I love jumping. I use mechs that jump a lot of times. I think there should be more risk to it. I think jumping around in a 30 to 70 ton mech or heavier should come with some risk. There's always a lot of reward, huge amounts of reward. I think every time you should jump, it should come with risk. And I think that would actually help balance the BV as well, because you're going to want to take a better pilot when you take a jumping mech. So you're going to lower that piloting skill. A mech with an 8 pilot who still jumps with no repercussions, that seems unbalanced to me.
Now, I hear you, and I see the logic. But I have to say, as a predominantly Jade Falcon player, I hate that rule, and you're wrong. Josh, same question to you. What, if you could change one rule in Classic right now, what would it be?
Ironically, now, me and Denim didn't play this, it would also be jumping, but I would just say a PSR if you jump into any terrain that is not, clear or open.
A lot of people used to think that was a rule, by the way. That was a house rule because somebody thought that that's how it worked. And I've heard a lot of people say that that's what the rule was. That was never a rule. That was never an optional rule. It was just a way people played because somebody thought that that's how it worked.
Now, I will say there is terrain. It's called jungle. Jungle, if you jump in, it's a +1 and +2 for heavy jungle. if you enter it. Now that's not just jumping. That's any movement, because it's thick. You'll stumble over giant trees, fall into like swampy bogness. It's like, yeah, I was like, what if we just did that for jumping into any terrain? So now the mech can put its back to woods, and you can jump in there if you want to risk it.
And see, for me, I wouldn't mind just a modifier for jumping into woods, but you always have a PSR, because landing is hard. Jumping is easy. You shouldn't have to make any PSR for going up, but when you come down and land, that's when you need to take the PSR, because it's hard. It's not easy.
This is one of those rare cases where I'm like, yes, more things should fall down.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Jade Falcon, what do you think?
So if I had the power to change one rule, I actually did mine for Alpha Strike, right? Medium range only extends to 18 inches.
Oh, yeah.
Not 24.
100%.
Because when you're playing on a 4x4 mat, long range becomes almost negligible, right? And if I could change anything, it would be... the best part about this, you would not even have to change any of the printed cards, because the range is not listed on any of those cards, so you don't have to change it. You just say, hey, in the rulebook, it goes from 24 down to 18. Now, long range matters, right? Long range shots, upping skill becomes more prevalent because you're shooting at longer ranges more often.
Tournaments are played on smaller maps than
right. Well, I mean, practically
are recommended. Not
a lot of people, even at my dining room table, I can't fit a 4x6 mat on there without it falling off. Right? It's like it's not practical. I don't have a ping pong table to set my board on.
I used to. In my basement, we played BattleTech on the ping pong table. 100%. That's what we used to do.
Yeah. Yes. It's just I don't have that.
But I don't have that
table
anymore.
Size, and I really don't want to sit on the floor because my knees and my butt hurt by the time
we're
I'm
old
done.
now.
Getting there. But no. So I think if you were to shorten the length of medium range, that could make a real big difference in how the game is played.
Easy change for sure.
Yeah, you literally just have to change 2 numbers in the book. You don't have to change the cards. You don't have to do anything else. Yeah. The modifiers stay the same.
Huge.
Be a huge change. I'd almost like to house rule that and play that a little bit to see how it changes things, but I think it would be a worthwhile investigation for sure.
No, I am hopeful for the future, and I don't think there have been actually any bad rules changes. So I am okay if Catalyst and the developers decide, you know what, this needs tweaking. It's not like they don't have, most of the time years of playtesting on how the rule is played currently. It's like, yeah, we could stand to switch it up a little bit.
But yeah, all in all, it's a solid game still to this day, decades later.
Like good bones. Well, I think that's just about it. If you want to hear more of our discussions and see some of the behind the scenes content, feel free to join us on Patreon and become a patron. And you can also join us on the Discord if you want to jump into the conversation and have a chat with us there as well. You can find more pictures on the Instagram and Facebook sometimes. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to us at the mechbaypodcast@gmail.com. And if you do have questions regarding the Southern Assault Classic, please send those to southernassaultclassic@gmail.com.
I guess we can say war sometimes changes.
I want a Nuka-Cola for some reason.